Tana Rush, and I did Cinderella. So I started off with the character development of Cinderella, and I started off with just a flat bottom for a base, just to show that she was stable, but I didn't really like that. I wanted to show that she was softer. So I changed it to a circle, and then added kind of a head to it, and then I ended up with this one right here. Kind of changed the color a little bit too. I don't know, she just kind of gave me like a blue vibe, like in the story, like just, it's a soft color, and I wanted to show that she was soft and like shy. And then I developed the rest of the characters. So I made this one, the stepmother. I wanted to show that she was really off balance and really like not a good person at all. And then the two stepsisters, I made them exactly the same, and I also made them like resembling the stepmother in a way, but still different. They're right there. And then I made the her father have more of a solid base, but I mean he still is like married to the stepmother and like is letting all these things happen to Cinderella. So I gave him a sharper, like pointed like head. And then I started making the prince down here, and I wanted to show that he was like, you know, a good person and in the story and a positive character. So I made him a square and to show that he was like really sturdy, and then I added a crown to show that he was royal. And then this is one of the doves in the story. And so then I started making my first scene, and so I wanted to show that they're in the kingdom, and so kind of started there, but didn't really like it at all. So then I added a road and a village, but then I was like, this is terrible, so I completely changed it. My first scene I wanted to show when her father went to the festival and came back with a hazel branch for her, and showed it at her mother's grave. So I still wanted to show that they were like outside, like in the kingdom, and so I put that in the background, and then Cinderella by her mother's grave, and I wanted to, like, the colors, and I wanted to show that, you know, like that's her mother, like their a relationship between them. Like she was really, really sad, like when her mother died, and this is the hazel branch that her father brought back. But then in the story, he asked the stepdaughters what they wanted from the festival, and they asked for you know, pearls and dresses and stuff like that. So I wanted to add them into this scene as well, and so I added them with pearls and dresses, and kind of added some more to the background to make it look like it was further away and they were closer. And then I added some trees, because he went through a forest to like come back home. So this is my final for scene 1. Then this is start of my scene 2, and then I wanted to show in this scene the scene where Cinderella is asking to go to the ball, but not the ball, the party that the prince is throwing to find a wife, but she makes her go through the ashes and pick out all the lentils and peas. So I really wanted to show that she was small and alone at this time, and like very simple. Added a window and the peas to the ashes. And then, kind of foreshadowing, I added the doves in the window to show that they were going to come and like help her, but she hadn't called them yet. And then I added the stepsisters in the corner also, and I made the stepmother really big to show that she was, you know, bringing evil like towards the screen. That's my final for scene 2. And this is the start of my scene 3. And this is the final scene of the story where Cinderella and the prince are in the castle, and the stepsisters are coming, and they want to kind of get in on Cinderella's fortunes. And I didn't think that this really depicted the scene very well. And so, but in the scene, they're walking away, and the two doves come by and pick out their eyes, and so I wanted to show that kind of that they didn't get away like as a whole, like they didn't get away as good people. And they also, like, in the scenes prior, they had cut off parts of like their feet to fit the shoe. So I wanted to show that they were just really torn and broken. And it's our final for scene 3. So there's 1, 2, and 3. Any questions?
I like the way you represented the sisters in the final scene, the way you like had chunks off, and then
A little louder, Emmy, you can't hear back here.
I like the way you did the sisters because you have chunks coming off of them, and then I also like the stepmom. She was pretty evil.
I like that you incorporated all of the same shapes in each character, but you made them a little different. And then I also really liked your color choice. I think it really makes sense.
So the color choice is what? You want to go through that for us? And why you chose the colors? You talked about the blue that you wanted for Cinderella.
I chose the blue for Cinderella just to show that she was, she was very sad this whole entire story. I mean, she's just really like misses her mom and stuff, and is crying and, just very humble about everything too. And I really want her to just be like the only thing that that was that color. The yellow, there's a lot of gold like in this story, like with like the gold dress and stuff like that, and I kind of wanted to use that as like a kind of like a light in like the dark kind of color, because it's like bright, like I made the hazel branch yellow and the birds yellow, in like the kingdom, because they're kind of like her like saving, like they get her out of like all of this stuff. So I wanted to show it as kind of like a light color.
But you decided on the gray instead of white for what reason?
Just because I thought it was a dark story. I didn't think the white was too bright and it made it too light, and I just wanted to show that it was darker and it was more depressing. So gray seemed like it fit.
Okay, so the rest of you, with those choices made for the colors for those reasons, do you want to take a look at each of the slides and just the final slides there and just evaluate whether or not the color is used effectively there?
So with your final scene too, you talked about how, you talked about how the yellow was representing like saving Cinderella and all that. So maybe not have the background of the two yellow because that's her house, so that's where all the sadness is coming from,
I had problems with that slide. I couldn't decide what to do for it because the gray inside didn't seem right and the yellow outside. So I can play around with it a little bit more though. I definitely think I could fix it. So.
Yeah, I agree that the yellow and the blues, they aren't bad colors. They look good, but as dark as this story is, I think it might have been more effective with some darker, more ominous colors than the lighter, bouncier blue and pink, or blue and yellow.
For your scene 3, kind of, right now it looks like the castle's kind of floating midair. Maybe draw a black horizon line underneath it to give it an idea of, okay, it's not just floating, it's actually solid ground. I don't know if that's all.
I really like your slides overall. I think on your final scene 1, I would maybe add a trap or something because I was kind of losing a sense of depth.
Okay.
And there, I think it's like maybe like a path to the council maybe would help a little bit.
Okay.
For your final scene in scene 1, I would really work on those trees a little bit because right now, to me, they look a little bit like bamboos. If you look at it from a perspective basis, the trees are closer to the dad, so they should be a little bit bigger, while the trees that are farther away should be are like smaller.
Okay.
And I'd be careful with those hills because right now they almost look like that's the king, and honestly from here it looks like that's his crown. So maybe
Yeah, I think you need an adjustment there, yeah. Instead of the castle is looking a lot like the king's crown.
On your presentation as a whole, I think you did a good job. You did a good job projecting your voice, so everybody I hope could hear.
Could be a little louder.
You spent a lot of time looking at the screen, probably 2/3 of your time you were looking at the screen, not the audience. And just probably should watch the verbal pauses, the ums and things like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to direct everyone back to that second scene here, the second final scene. I'm a little worried about two things. One is that I have a feeling of things being tucked into the corner of the room. And what we need to decide here is you're depicting a scene, what is the main action you want to show? Now, there's an advantage to having the kind of evil figures closer to us if they were about to do something, but actually they're only observing in this scene.
Well, I was trying to show like that they're telling her like you have to pick out all of these peas and lentils. I mean, like making her seem small and in the corner and like like look down upon. Like that's kind of what I was trying to go for this scene.
Okay, but right now it looks like a very small task. And it's really a big task, right? So people could suggest the best way to do it, but I think you need to make the suggestion that we've got all these lentils lost in these ashes as a very big task for this small, sad figure there. But the other problem that I think you need to deal with here is that you've given us good reasons for choosing the colors. And I'm not objecting in any way to the colors themselves, but if it is a sad story, there is so much of the yellow, which is so bright in that second, that I think that maybe you can either think of some ways here or ask your classmates for some suggestions. Is there some way we can invert the colors or do something that will, because right now she's kind of in a big happy room. You know?
I was struggling a lot with this scene. I mean, like, if I made it black, like the whole room black with like gray outlines, do you think that would like depict it better? But then like, I wouldn't be able to see unless I outlined the stepmother and stepsisters.
Maybe, I'm not sure what you do with like the ashes and stuff, make the floor gray so you can still see the stepmom and sisters and the walls black.
Okay.
And then maybe make the ashes black too and the lentils gray or something. That would help.
You've got some other suggestions here.
This is my first witnessing of these activities, okay? And I understand that is your class has been charged with Cinderella, and then different sections did different stories, is that
Well, no,
right?
it's days. Every section did Cinderella today,
Oh, okay.
but there are different stories on different days, yeah.
Okay, so I would offer this as an interpretation of the large yellow room, and the sisters perhaps needing to be larger as well. But in keeping the same color for the castle and for the house, one of the readings is a reading of irony. In other words, whose story is being told? Because the circumstance for Cinderella being small and alienated in somebody else's kingdom, in this case, the kingdom of the mom and stepmother and stepsisters, is it a good house for them or not? I don't know enough about the details, or recall enough of details about the house, in which case their kingdom is this big blocky domestic place that's their haven. And I would read this in you seeing the yellow reinterpreted as kind of multi-phased. with an ironic statement. And it also then says, it doesn't matter whether it's a castle or a house, it's the people and the circumstance of whose view is being told. So that's, for me, that's an acceptable view with respect to the brightness of the house. The horizon line for the stepmother in this lower left image, she could have even been larger. And if her horizon line was above the horizon line for Cinderella, I might even put Cinderella in the lower foreground corner.
I've just moved the mouse. Sorry.
To consider, that should be, picture should just come back and
Just-
just touch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just quickly, if this person were here and larger, she were here and this were larger, and the sisters were there looking at her, then the issue is the superior position of power and scale would have further diminished her role. As it is, we have an eye-level view over the top of everybody, and she is a central star figure, but the powerfulness of these folks is left by the change of perspective. And that's a very, it's a very delicate balance.
I think we've identified the problems here, and there are a couple of ways to correct it. And one is the repositioning that Professor Palermo was suggesting. The other one that I think was a suggestion one of the students made would work too. If you really increase the size of the stepsisters and the stepmother, so one will get a darkerness and less of a cheerfulness in the picture, but also be using that old movie trick of putting the villains and the evil close to us as the audience. And there are there's a final way you could do it with inverting color, which would be to make the room gray, and maybe the sense there would be that the most that these evil people could project is a nasty gray, and then you'd have to put the yellow outside and rethink how you did the lentils and the cinders. I do think that the task itself, though, the cinders, that has to be bigger in relation to Cinderella, because it's really a daunting task. And if these doves weren't going to come in and help her, she would never have finished it. So, because they've given her a horrible task, and they're just waiting for her to fail at it. Other suggestions or questions about any of them? Okay, thank you.